Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Just wanted to do a short video tonight on talking about catalog guitars for just a few minutes with you. I've got a 1969 Silvertone here. You've seen it on the channel before if you've been on this channel for any length of time. This one was rebuilt by Mr. Baxendale up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And there's a lot to that guy that I'm not going to go into this video because I've done it in others. But this would be considered a catalog guitar. This guitar originally was sold out of a catalog for Sears in particular, but Montgomery Ward's, Woolworths, those kinds of stores back before internet and computers, they had catalogs. People get those catalogs, look through them, see the things that they either needed or wanted, and there's definitely a difference between needs and wants. And they'd either load up in the car and drive up to that local Sears, Montgomery Ward's, whatever, and they would, at that point, go find what it was they saw in the catalog and buy it there at the store. Or you could order it out of the catalog. They had an ordering page in the back of the thing where you could fill it out and send them a check, for those of you that know what a check is. And then they'd mail it to you. So that was probably more along the lines of folks that were more rural back then, as opposed to folks that might have lived in a suburb, because I kind of grew up in a suburb. I spent my brother and I spent our school year in a suburb of Dallas, and then during the summer we went and worked on a farm up in McKinney where my granddad lived. And it was a great experience, and we did that for loads of summers. That's about anything I ever learned about a farm or a ranch, I learned from that guy. Phenomenal. My grandfather was a true gentleman, folks. But that'd be my dad's dad, and my mother's parents were equally as fine of people, just so you know. But these catalog guitars, pretty amazing for the price point. So they probably cost about 10% back then or less of somebody's monthly salary. I'm going back to the early 60s when I was anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 7 or 8, 9 years old. Okay. And so while it was a hit to the bottom line in any family, it didn't cost what a Gibson or a Martin cost, and they could get their children started on musical instruments relatively inexpensively. Now, originally this guitar probably sold for somewhere around $20 out of the catalog, $20 or $30 maybe less than that. Might have been a $15 or $16. Again, I'm putting some of these catalog pages up, and this particular guitar is actually in the catalog. I think you can see. Can you see over here behind me? Let me pull this around. I've got another one here that's a letter braced. It's a 1956 to 59. That one's really hard to date. I could date this one. I couldn't date that one. But it is this, folks. It's pretty much the exact same guitar. If I can back up here a little bit, it's pretty much the same guitar. The only difference is you'll see a difference in the headstock on this other one because it was from the late 50s, mid to late 50s. And this one's from the late 60s, 1969. So there's some fundamental differences. Catalog guitars are something that you still find them on Reverb. And now, I will say that I've had good luck, really good luck, with the ones that I've picked up and purchased. The key, I think, on a lot of them is not to overpay for them. And I'll tell you up front, I bought this one from Scott, and that's been 5 years ago or better, 6, ever how long ago it was. At the time, I bought it out of a music store that was selling it, and I think I paid around $1,500 for it. And I knew then I was rolling the dice because Other than I had spoken to Scott before I actually made this purchase, but I didn't know him, so I didn't know what I was going to get. I just knew this was a very clean. By the way, it had the white pick guard on it. I just took it off and filled it in. But it was a very clean example of a catalog guitar from the 1960s, okay? And as a result of that, I thought, well, if this guy redid it, I didn't know what rebracing was, I had to do a little investigating. And come to find out, that's a really great thing to do on some of these old guitars, even if you don't get them X-braced, to redo the ladder bracing in them, because the bracing gets loose over the years, just like as the neck does. So when you get an old catalog guitar like this, you go, well, there's one on here for $120. That's not bad, or $80 or whatever it may be. Yeah, well, the thing is, if the body's in good shape and the neck angle's okay, the only thing you have to think about is whether or not a neck reset has been done. If you buy a guitar from the 40s, 50s, 60s, probably even the 70s, they're going to be about due for a neck reset if they have a glued-in set neck, okay, like this one does. And so that's another thing that Scott did, was he actually took this neck and took it off and redid the neck and reset it, set up the annotation on the guitar, got everything right on it. And you have to have somebody that knows what they're doing, okay? These were fantastic examples of craftsmanship, in my opinion. But catalog guitars, ladder braced guitars have a tone of their own, more of a woody, turn of the century sound to them. I think would be a good way to describe it, and I like them, and I play this guitar pretty frequently behind me. But of all the guitars that I own, I think this may be the most special guitar to me, just because it was the first one I really picked up to get my journey back going again, playing guitar. Anyway, special edition of catalog guitars. If you can find one, the advice I have is get the history and find out whether or not the neck's ever been reset. A neck can look good. It can have a good look to it on reverb, for example, but it may not be right. And you don't know what somebody else has done to it. So, if you find one, particularly that Scott's got up for sale, you can pretty much count on the fact that it's been well gone over, and that he puts his hands on it before it goes out the door. But if you pick one up at random, somebody else has built the thing, the price will normally tell you whether or not the guitar has been redone, but still you have to ask. I have seen some ridiculous asking prices on these catalog guitars when nobody's done a thing to them. And they go, yeah, plays great, does all. Well, that still doesn't make it worth $1,500, $2,000. What makes the guitar worth that kind of money is the fact that it's been rebraced. And you go, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm just going to go buy a Martin. And I'll go pick me up a Martin Triple O 17 or 21 or whatever. And that's a prerogative that you can certainly have. But what I'll tell you is, these are 55, 56-year-old woods on this guitar that Martin's not going to have. And if it's been redone properly and you get the X bracing in these guitars and the keys have been replaced with something worthwhile and have got a bone nut, bone saddle, bone pins, it'll blow your Martin out of the water. And it's nothing against Martin. They build a great guitar. But they don't build guitars with 50, 60-year-old woods on them, okay? 55-year-old wood, folks, on this guitar. And birch is not easy to come by anymore for guitars, by the way, in case you haven't noticed that. And birch reminds me a little bit of, it may sound strange, but it reminds me a little bit of maple. But these guitars are phenomenal when they've been properly redone. The neck on this guitar, look, I'll be dead and gone before somebody has to do anything to this guitar. I mean, long gone. It's a beautiful example of what you can get from these old catalog guitars. Now, if you can pick one up and it's in decent shape, by decent, I mean neck straight, everything, yeah, you may have to get the neck reset. Because one of the things you'll see in a lot of these ads off of Reverb is the action's high. Well, the action's high not because the saddle's too tall. The action's high because the neck's beginning to give. Okay? So you have to do a neck reset on these things. And if that's all you were to do was just get a neck reset, you're probably looking at $200-300, maybe $400 to get that done. I think I've got that pricing about right. But the smart thing to do is to have somebody that knows what they're doing pull the back of this and replace all the braces and install X bracing on them. At which point you've got something that is amazing in sound, because in my opinion this is one amazing playing and sounding guitar. There's no pickup in it, but you could add a pickup pretty easy to it. But I've said it before on this channel, if somebody offered me $5,000 for this one, I would not take it. I have the best example of a rebuilt catalog guitar that was ever done out there, in my opinion. This thing is just absolutely amazing, folks. Just a beautiful, amazing guitar. So this isn't a Scott Baxendale hour, but it's catalog guitar hour. Scott just happened to redo this one, and I think the world of this man's craftsmanship. But catalog guitars, folks, don't pass them up when you see them if you can land a good example, even if you have to get somebody to rebrace it and reset the neck. Every bit worth the investment. Just think about the aged woods that you're going to get out of that. Might have to do the neck reset, but the ladder bracing sounds good on them. And like I say, if you want to hear that one, just go back and find that ladder bracing versus X bracing video I did a while back. And folks, that's what I have to kind of talk about tonight. It was just some catalog guitars, and encouraging you not to just pass them over while you're shopping on Reverb. I mean, just imagine Martin did a 00017 thermally cured top. That guitar is probably going to cost you $2,500, $3,000. Here's you a naturally cured Sitka spruce top that rebuilt, you can probably pick this thing up for maybe well under a couple of grand. Okay, so something to think about, folks, something to think about. If you're like me, I find something and lately I've just had to stop getting on reverb because I find guitars, I just tend to buy them, and I plainly, if I pan the camera around, I don't need any more guitars, you know. So, but anyway, want to do this video, encourage you to keep an eye out as you guitar shop, especially online, for these catalog guitars. And then, of course, if you ever get out to Norman's Rare Guitars out in Tarzana, out there just outside of LA, get in there and check him out too, because he's got a back room that is packed full of old vintage guitars. And I'll lay $1 to a donut. This guy's got, you know, Norm's probably got quite a few of these in the store somewhere. But the ones I picked up thus far, I picked up off of Reverb. I've got another one that's all birch. Looks just like this. You've seen it in another video that Scott rebuilt, and there was a guy in California that, out in the LA area, I think, and he was selling it and online because belonged to his granddad or his dad. I think it was dad. Belonged to his dad, and he'd had it rebuilt for him, and then his dad, I guess, passed, and so he was selling it, and I picked it up as well. And it's a beautiful sounding example of these catalog guitars. I'm a fan, folks, of catalog guitars. For the money, I don't think you can beat them. So anyway, thought I'd take a little time out and upload a video in honor of catalog guitars, folks. Good to see each and every one of you. Hope you're all doing well. God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.